Good evening, Northern Colorado. This is K3SAD, Net Control for tonight's TechNet. I'm located in Windsor. My name is George, and the purpose of the TechNet is to enlighten amateur radio operators on topics of a technical nature. We will do our best to answer any technical questions to the benefit of all listening. If a subject has never been clear to you, this is an excellent opportunity to find an answer. If anyone feels they have information that will help regarding the subject, please give your call sign and Net Control will call on you. Reset. This net may be interrupted at any time for emergencies or priority traffic. If you need to use the system for an emergency during the net, say break 3 times in rapid succession, and I will yield the floor. All licensed amateur radio operators with 70-centimeter privileges are encouraged to check into the net. Club membership is encouraged, but never required for participation within the net. Check-ins are requested to count participation, and no checkout is required. This is K3SAD, Net Control for tonight's NCARC TechNet. When checking in, please give your call sign slowly, first alphabetically, then again using the ITU phonetic alphabet, along with your name and location. When checking in, please state if you have a topic you would like to discuss. I'll be taking check-ins in groups of 3. When I've recorded the first group of 3, I'll move on to the next. Barring doubles, in the interest of time, I will read back all recorded call signs after the conclusion of the first full round of check-ins. If I've made any mistakes, please call Net Control with corrections at that time. I'll start by taking check-ins from any new hams. If you've received your license within the last 6 months, I'm looking for you. Alpha through Zulu, new hams within 6 months. Call now. It's worth a try. Anybody on Echolink, please call now. So far, so good. I will now take check-ins over the air. Call prefixes Alpha through Mike. Alpha through Mike, please call now.
K0MLG, Kilo 0 Mike, Lima Golf Mark.
KF0ODB, Kilo Foxtrot 0, Oscar Delta.
WA9FBO, Whiskey Alpha 9, Foxtrot Bravo Oscar, Bob in Laporte. Evening, George.
Sorry, Bob, I doubled on you. Go again.
Whiskey Alpha 9, Foxtrot Bravo Oscar, Bob in Laporte.
Okay, go with the next 3.
This is N0EMP, November 0, Echo Mike Papa, Greg in Fort Collins, with Debbie, K0DBE, Kilo 0 Delta Bravo Echo, no traffic.
This is KE0ME, Kilo Echo 0, Mike Echo, Dick, in Loveland, no traffic. This is Kilo 0, Alpha Bravo Kilo, Alex Loveland.
Okay, let's hold up there. That last station, your signal was a little rough and a little fast. Can you give me your call sign one more time, please?
Kilo 0, Alpha Bravo Kilo, Alex.
Got you that time, Alex. Thank you. Go ahead with the next 3. Hold up there. Let me make sure I have this. That last station, very bad signal. All I got was 0 hotel out of that whole bit. You want to see if you got something wrong there and try again a little bit later? K3SAD, taking check-ins for tonight's TechNet. Go ahead with the next 3.
KF0 UFB, Kilo Foxtrot 0, Uniform Foxtrot Bravo, John in Fort Collins.
Got you in there. Anyone else? I'll take call signs Alpha through Zulu. Alpha through Zulu, please call now.
This is
N0 NYY, November 0, November Yankee, Bart in Evans, with Gene, N0 QXQ, November 0 Quebec, X-Ray Quebec, and I have an announcement.
This is KB0YDN, Kilo Bravo 0, Yankee Delta November, Eric Pinewood.
This is W0LEI, Whiskey 0, Lima Echo India, Chad in Stout.
Got those 3. Go ahead with the next.
This is WB5TEX, Whiskey Bravo 5, Tango Echo X-Ray, Dale, Loveland, no traffic.
Kilo Foxtrot 0, Quebec Golf Tango, John in Eaton, with no traffic. KF0
QGT.
Sounds good. Anyone else?
AF0SHX Kilo Foxtrot 0 Sierra Hotel X-Ray Norm Johnstown.
KB0OLE Kilo Bravo 0 Oscar Lima Echo Dave in Loveland, and I could ask a question.
KD0YOP Kilo Delta 0 Yankee Oscar Papa Scott's in Fort Collins.
K0NMR Kilo 0 November Mike Romeo Joseph in Fort Collins. No traffic.
Gotcha in there. Anyone else?
W1VAM Whiskey 1 Victor Alpha November W1 Ivan in Fort Collins.
K0AZA Kilo 0 Alpha Zulu Alpha Ron in Fort Collins.
Gotcha in there. Anyone else?
KF0SHW Kilo Foxtrot 0 Sierra Hotel Whiskey. This is Mary at Johnstown.
This is Alpha Delta 0 Kilo Echo AD0KE Wayne. No traffic.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, going back up through the list here, looks like first up is Bart, 10-0NYY. You have the floor.
Thank you, George. Public service announcement. Ham radio lunch. Loveland, Perkins, Wednesday, 11:30 a.m.-ish. 2222 West Eisenhower, which is Highway 34, tallest flagpole around, and an opportunity to meet a lot of people that you hear on the radio, usually a couple hundred, literally a couple hundred years of radio experience sitting around in there. Great opportunity to ask questions, meet people, get to know people, make fun of people, have a good old time, and eat lunch. Kind of like net with lunch, as Mark always used to say. This Wednesday, 11:30, Perkins and Loveland. And 0NYY back to net.
Thank you, Bart. This is K3SAD, Net Control for tonight's TechNet, and I forgot to call back call signs, so I will do that now. And I know I screwed one up. I have it written down as don't call yet, but call me when I'm done. WA9WFO, and I know that's not right. So you know who you are. Give me a call when I'm done. K0MLG, KF0ODD, N0EMP, K0DBE, KE0ME, K0ADK, KF0UFB, N0NYY, N0QXQ, KB0YDN, W0LEI, WB5TEX, KF0QGT, QF0, I said that wrong, KF0SHX, KB0OLE, KD0YOP, K0NMR, W1VAN, K0AZA, KS0SHW, AD0KE. Anyone else want to check in before we roll to the next question? Okay, nothing heard. I'm going to go for KB0OLE. Go with your question, Dave.
Well, I'm curious about our venerable connectors, the SO239, PL259 pair. And I'm curious, well, what I've read is that at higher frequencies, VHF, UHF, and above, the loss in this connector starts to become a notable thing. So I'm wondering, why is it that our vendors are selling us radios using these connectors on VHF and UHF frequencies? KB0OLE.
This is K3SAT Net Control. Any takers on that one?
EMP.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, those came out in like World War II, and they were called UHF connectors. Back then, UHF was like 300 megahertz. So as I understand it, and from what I've seen, they're okay at VHF. They're okay at 2 meters. They're just fine there. But at 70 centimeters, they can have an impedance bump that is not good if you're doing weak signal stuff. For repeaters and mobile radios and whatnot, they're fine still, but for weak signal, they're not really good at 70 centimeter. And above that, they're really not good at all. So I guess The vendors selling the equipment are doing that because they always did, is probably the best answer. But there are better connectors once you get up to 70 centimeter, either N connectors or BNC. And 0 EMP.
Anybody else want to poke a stick at it? Are you satisfied with that answer, Dave?
That's about what I figured. At these UHF, VHF bands, I'm guessing we're really only losing a dB or two, which in most cases, since the repeater is only a few miles away, doesn't matter that much. So that does make sense, although it's a little bit frustrating when you're putting a lot of energy into trying to, squeeze every dB out of the system as possible to have this connector in here that's like, you could have made a better choice here. Anyway, rant over. KB0 OLE.
MLG.
Go ahead, Marty.
The loss is so negligible you'd never notice it, and we just rely on repeaters. A lot of us do simplex work on the daily as much as we can. And for a quality connector, look to the Italians with a brand called Messi and Paoloni, MESSIPAOLIN, Paoloni, LONIA, I think it is. Anyway, look at the specs on their connectors, and there's like no loss at all. They could be compared to an N connector that a lot of people like. Messi and Paoloni, check them out. K0MLG.
Any other comments or anybody with experience with the Messi fellatio connectors that Marty was talking about? Sorry, I couldn't resist. Any other topics for tonight's TechNet?
And 0 EMP.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I've got my remote receiver fired up on Rattlesnake, and I'm looking at my signal right now as I'm talking. I was wondering if the gal in Johnstown, I think it's KF0SHW, if she could do another transmission. She's kind of having a hard time getting into Horsetooth, and I was curious what she looked like on the spectrum display up at my site. If she's still listening, you can give it a call.
KF0SHW. Greg, this is Mary, and I couldn't get it to go through to Lee Hill, so I switched back to Horsetooth.
Yeah, we disconnected from the Lee Hill repeater due to some interference and shenanigans that were going on there. So we're not linked to Lee Hill anymore, as you may have noticed. So you got to go direct into Horsetooth. Yeah, I couldn't hear you on the remote receiver any better than Horsetooth did. I was just curious how it would do up there. All right, thank you. And 0 EMP.
And Mary, I'm suspecting that you were one of the first check-ins we had, then I couldn't make you out. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. But you got me later, and Norm went through on the same one. He was the KF0SHX, and you acknowledged him. So I think we're good.
Okay, yeah. I had kind of recognized the voice when you called in the second time, and I thought it was your second attempt, and it was a lot clearer the second time. Okay, about the only thing I had to throw up there for discussion was Field Day is coming up, I believe, on Saturday. So I was wondering if anybody wanted to talk about their tips and tricks of ripping the stuff out of their house and running out into the field with it. Call K3SAD.
OLE?
OLE, go ahead.
I'm curious about battery size. If somebody has a 100-watt HF radio, how big a battery do you like to run with out in the field?
NYY.
Go ahead, Bart.
I have a 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate, which I think weighs about 16 or 18 pounds. I typically run a Yaesu FT857D at 100 watts, and I think our last POTA I was working about 3 hours. And I think I pulled about 10% off of that battery, if that. So for 100 watts, 100 amp hours is probably good for a couple days. I haven't sat down and done the physical numbers for transmit time and receive time, but I do plan to do so. But I will say that 100 amp hours lasts a good long time. And 0NYY, back to net.
EMP.
Go ahead, Greg.
So a mobile radio running 100 watts, running at about 13.8 volts, draws about 20 amps. There's some that are better than that, but on average, they draw about 20 amps on transmit with FM, full power 100 watts. So a 20 watt or a 20 amp hour battery would give you 1 hour of transmit time. A 100 amp hour battery would give you 5 hours of transmit time. Now, single sideband is a lot more efficient. If you have a power supply in your shack that has an ammeter on it, and you look at the amperage draw as you're talking, you'll notice that even with the microphone keyed, you're not really drawing any current until you talk. And then as you're speaking, the current peaks are on the voice peaks. And in the space between the words, there's really no current draw. So single sideband is a lot more efficient. So if you're in the field running on battery and you have a solar panel keeping the battery topped off, you can run 100 watts single sideband with only a 20 watt solar panel, and with the normal kind of 80% listen, 20% talk ratio on and using single sideband, you can keep your battery topped off. If you started out being topped off, you can keep your battery topped off running a 100 watt single sideband with just a 20 watt solar panel. And 0 EMP.
This is K3SAD, Net Control. Any other thoughts along these lines?
NYY.
Go ahead, Bart.
Let's see, I didn't hear Kyle check in, but I know Dick is in here, and Greg, obviously. I think we need to set up an experiment and do exactly that, and get a good current meter and do something like a POTA activation and, make it deliberately intensive on calling CQ and take measurements and get numbers and say, here's what we did. Here's our transmit time, here's our receive time, here's our average current draw, and here's how much damage we do or how much load we gave the battery during X number of hours of operation. I just think it would be really nice to nail those numbers down. I was thinking about it as I was talking about it, but Greg brings up a point that is very valid. Most of the time we're doing sideband when we do that. Now, if we do something like an event, we may be using FM a lot, typically 50 watts, not 100, or something less than that. But on sideband, I would really like to nail those numbers down hard and see, test 3 or 4 different radios and see what we come up with, and then publicize those numbers on the website. My suggestion. We'll talk more at lunch on Wednesday. And 0NYY, back to net.
Else?
Double.
Calling station, go ahead.
Mike Echo.
Go ahead and give your call sign, and you have the floor.
KE0ME. I wasn't sure if I doubled with somebody. Or did I come through on it?
Okay, KE0ME, you won the double or triple or whatever we've been doing for the past 30 seconds. Go for it.
Okay. Just one comment on the BioNO, and I think pretty much all the lithium iron phosphate batteries. They're multiple cells, and they have battery controllers. And the one spec you need to look at is that the battery has a maximum discharge rate, or amperage, and if you exceed that amperage when you're transmitting for more than 3 seconds, it will shut the battery off. So in addition to amp hours, and there's numerous places on the internet you can get the formula, for average transmit and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing I think that most people may not be aware of is that battery has a maximum amperage that it's designed to operate at. Just for what it's worth, the battery I have is a 12 amp hour, and I think the maximum on that is 20 amps. So that would be basically a full 100-watt radio. And when you're going portable, I found, honestly, 30 to 50, 60 watts probably will get you the same amount of contacts as 100 watts would. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Dick. Anyone else?
E0HI with also a late check-in.
Sorry, give me your call sign one more time and just start talking.
About that. This is AD0HI, Alpha Delta Zero, Hotel India, Bob and Greeley. Speaking of BioNO, if you go to the bionopower.com, and it's buried in their website, they have a thing called ham radio chart downloads, and they have a 2080 standard duty chart, which is 20% transmit, 80% receive, 50/50, which they call a field day duty chart, spec and comparisons, that's a radio compatibility chart for Yaesu, ICOM, Elecraft, PowerWorks, and QIP. And what they did was they did a kind of a breakdown of transmits at different power levels, albeit they recommend their batteries, but basically any that are that particular amperage, and it goes into voltage, capacity, and runtime and hours based on different amp hour batteries. You may want to take a look at those, and they have other ones that go into specific models, radios, and what they typically draw under different conditions, like the amount of time that they're squelched, etc. So take a look at those charts. They may give you some general ideas about what kind of battery you may need for. You may do, like I do, QRP, which weight is a big concern, but I also may have it where I'm running 100 watts, like an 891, and I need a much higher battery, but this gives you an idea of what kind of batteries you need for different situations.
This is K3SAD, net control for the beep. Bob, about 15 seconds into it, I think you let your mic get away from your mouth a bit. I followed most of what you said, so I think everybody else did too. However, it might not hurt to repeat the website you'd referred to. Come back. The
BioNO Power website, and it's their ham radio power consumption charts, and they have the various different breakdowns for different radio types and also different usages, and that may give you a good kind of a good starting point anyway. So if you want to do QRP where weight is a concern, you may have one battery type, like let's say you have let's say an 817, for example, or you may have another one where you're using 891 where you need a different battery. This gives you a general idea.
Okay, thanks for that. Anyone else?
Mike Echo.
0QGT with the comment.
I'm going to have ME stand by. Other calling station, go ahead and give me your full call sign as you start talking, and I will write it down as you're talking.
Yeah, this is KF0QGT. And when I was trying to size up a battery for my little QRP radio, I came across a really nice spreadsheet, and it was hosted on QRPeer.com. That's Queen Romeo Papa Echo Romeo.com. And the spreadsheet, it was put together by a guy with the amateur call sign Kilo Alpha 4 Kilo Oscar Echo, but you can put in the radio's amp draw on receive and your amp draw on transmit and your times and whether it's digital or SSB, and it calculates out really nice, an approximate or a close to probably accurate size, whether it's lead acid or LifePo. The only thing is you really kind of want to have a good amp draw meter on the radio while you're checking those numbers and not just relying on what the manufacturer says. KF0 QGT back to net.
Thanks for that. Go ahead, Dick.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I found that information that the other lady was talking about. Sorry I didn't catch her call. On the BioNO website, they actually have two charts there. One is an 80-20, 80% listen, 20% transmit, and then they also have a 50-50 chart for field day, which is obviously a lot higher use. So it's difficult to find on the website. It's under the, what does it look like? Home, optimize your ham radio experience with BioNO batteries, and then you just read down in the text, and it has a link to click on. I downloaded them, but I don't know if we can upload them, like to the club website or not, KE0ME.
I'm guessing throwing a link on our website to that just to get you over there would probably be without objection. Might throw that past Greg when this is all over. Anybody else?
EMP.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, when I started worrying about running HF radios on batteries, I bought a Yaesu 891, FT891. It's a HF and 6 meter. And the reason I bought that radio is its receive current draw is very low. By comparison, the old ICOM 706 and the Mark IIG variant, they get hot just on receive. I mean, without even transmitting, those radios get hot. They draw a lot of receive current. The 891 draws a lot less receive current. So I bought that as my battery-powered HF and 6 meter rig, which I normally run, like Dick said, like at 20 watts or so. I wanted to be able to run it at 100 watts in an emergency. And like Dick pointed out, the BioNO batteries have a current limit. So I bought the smallest BioNO battery that can deliver a full 20 amps if it needs to. And I think that was the 12 amp hour battery. It was probably about 4-inch by 6-inch by 8-inch. I'm guessing off the top of my head. So, but that was the smallest BioNO battery, lithium iron phosphate, that would deliver full current for full 100 watts with that radio if I need it. And 0 EMP.
NYY. I had the same problem with the 706 Mark IIG ICOM. And then I read a thing somewhere that said, turn off your backlight. The backlight draws 1.6 amps, which is stupid for an LED. But the power supply they use on it is a dinosaur. Turn off the backlight, and if you've got enough front light to see your LCD, you can drop the receive current down a whole bunch, and the temperature of the radio as well. N0 NYY, back to net.
This is K3SAD, net control. Anybody else? With field day coming up, is anybody interested in a couple of diesel batteries, 1400 cold cranking amps? Don't remember much else beyond that. 3 years old, good shape. Let me know afterwards. Any other topics for tonight's TechNet?
W1VA.
Go ahead, Ivan.
Offer my assistance if anybody would like help navigating Fusion, the Yaesu Fusion platform or the repeaters. or the DMR. Give me a shout out. Also have a new repeater up there, which is the D-Star. I would like some help. If anybody knows how to operate D-Star, drop me a call here and help me out. W1BAM.
Is there anyone on the net tonight that's comfortable with D-Star? I usually just bang on things with a hammer until they work. Any other late check-ins for tonight? Call now. Alpha through Zulu.
Oscar Bravo Charlie, Justin Mobile Alt, no traffic.
Got you in there, Justin. There was a doubling station. Go ahead. Maybe it was the doubling of pulling it out of his pocket while he was starting. Anybody else want to check in for tonight's TechNet before we close it down? Call K3SAD.
W0IKL, Paul in Fort Collins.
Got you in there. Anyone else? Hearing none. This concludes the NCARC TechNet. Net Control would like to thank each station for their participation. We had a total of 26 check-ins tonight, including 3 I tried to... No, but 26 is for real. This net will occur again next Monday at the same time on this repeater, which is the 5th Monday of the month, which means, Joe, you're up. This is K3SAD, closing the net at 6:43 p.m.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. For more information, visit our website, ncarc.net. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.